turn it over to the chair of the administration committee.
Thank you. I'll call the administration committee meeting to order. Clerk Galeazzi, could we have the roll call, please?
Alderman Taylor.
Here.
Alderman Sevenik.
Here.
Alderman Langdon.
Here.
Alderman Schmidt.
Here.
Alderman Tom Grotti.
Here.
Alderman Ted Grotti.
Here.
Alderman Rapella.
Here.
Alderman Nichols.
Here.
Okay.
Thank you. The first item of business this evening is to approve the administration committee meeting minutes from April 21st, 2020. Do we have a motion?
I'll make the motion. I'll second it.
We have a motion by Alderman Rapella and a second by Alderman Tom Grotti to approve the minutes from April 21st. Is there any discussion? Seeing no discussion, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Minutes are approved. We have one discussion action item this evening, and that is a development agreement between the City of Menasha and Lakeshore Ridge Apartments, LLC, the For Development and Investment Group. Director Schrader, if you would introduce this, please.
Yeah, certainly. Thank you, Chair. So in front of us today is basically a development agreement for Lakeshore Ridge Apartments. Previously, we were working with For Development Group and Investment Group. This is basically that same group. However, did create a new LLC specifically for this project, which is a fairly standard practice. So again, kind of to reiterate, on March 16th, For Development proposed a concept plan to the Common Council, at which point it does include, the project includes two phases. Phase one is a 66 market rate apartment building with underground parking and an 8-unit owner-occupied townhouse-style condominium. And phase two is an additional 36-unit market rate apartment building. So these are two lots that are currently owned by the Redevelopment Authority out at Lake Park Villas. So these are just basically north of Highway 10 and west of LP, or I guess Lake Park Road, and west of the new Community First Credit Union. So again, the development is looking at these in two phases. So again, phase one would look to be completed no later than November 1 of 2021. So again, that would be construction starting on the 66-unit apartment as well as the 8-unit apartment, following approvals, acquisition of the property, all those sort of things this year, and then again, completion by November 1 of 2021. So that is basically about a year and a half from now. Phase two would be optional. Again, the developers fully intend to construct phase two. However, want to make sure they are looking at basically making sure they're not overpopulating the system with too many units, adding to vacancies, which does not help any performance or this development agreement and this overall development. So again, noted in the development agreement, the developer intends to incur at least $10 million in hard costs in phase one, and at least $3.5 million in phase two. We did kind of go back and forth with the developer. We did add a guaranteed minimum assessment based upon the hard cost. So again, at this time, the developer is guaranteeing the assessment of the $10 million in phase one, and as well as the $3.5 million in phase two. Maybe I'll let the developer speak on that. I know this is a fairly not a standard practice from what they have seen, especially with a Pago style TIF such as this, which is a very low risk development agreement for the city. So continuing on, again, the city performance incentive would be no more than 20% of the total equalized value of each of the phases when fully assessed. And the city's performance incentive would be 95% of the actual tax increment revenue that is received. So again, we would look at making sure that payments are not given until the building is completed, and the developer, would make payments if they became tax exempt. In addition, if they fell below the minimum assessment guarantee, we would look to, they do have the right to cure that, so they would basically pay any difference there, and then they would get the increment based upon that. So again, attached to this development agreement is the legal descriptions, the concept plan that was presented to Common Council on March 16th, kind of describing each phase, as well as a payment schedule. So this payment schedule is estimated based upon a $17 million project. Again, per the concept plan that they did present, it, looking at a $16 to $20 million project. So again, the cost of that and a really assessment is widely ranged depending on individual assessors, which the city of Menasha does contract those services out to. So again, that is probably why you see a larger conservative number there for the minimum assessment, in a sense that the developer does not have control over that assessment. They only have control over what they spend into it, and their history as far as what they're going to get out of it. So again, with a $17 million project and looking at the life of the district, we would be hitting that maximum at $3.4 million versus the 20% of the project as of 1/1 of 2024. So again, I'm happy to answer any questions, as well as I do know the developers are present and can certainly answer questions as well.
Yes, thank you. And thank you, Director Schrader, for providing the additional information that was delivered to us late Friday night, I believe. Thank you for including that in tonight's information. I do have one question that I think needs to be clarified before we move forward, and that has to do with the total value of the project, because I saw 3 sets of numbers presented to me, and so I'm hoping you can clear some of that up for everyone. Initially, when
That's the number.
we were first informed of this back in March, we had a number of 16 to 20, which is indicated in your memo on page 1, 16 to 20 million. Then on page 2 of your memo, we were at 12 million and 5 million. And then in the agreement itself, it was noted at 10 and 3, I believe. So is the number that we're working with today the 10 million and 3 million?
Yeah, so I apologize for that. There was miscommunication with my memo that did go out. The memo did note the 12 million and 5 million in hard costs. Again, I believe the developer, does intend to spend somewhat close to that. However, looking at with the minimum assessment guarantee and tying that into the project, looking at a more conservative number for that. So again, the 16 to 20 million is both phases, estimated at the, basically a concept of the project, but is widely ranged and dependent on the assessment of the actual project upon completion. So again, the developer does intend to construct the project as it was designed, and will go through the approvals for those designs. And even though you have anticipated assessments, it is widely ranged based upon individual assessments. So again, phase 1 of the concept plan showed estimated additional value of 10 to 12 million, and phase 2 showed an additional value of 6 to 8. So again, we were looking and communicating with the developers and added some conservative numbers in there, as well as tie that directly to the minimum assessment. Again, as stated, and maybe the developers can touch on this, this is a Pago style TIF incentive. So what that means is basically we pay upon performance as well as being paid from them. So again, it is 95% of the tax increment revenue collected. So again, they have to complete the project and they have to pay taxes on those, and we pay as we go for that. So again, that is a very low risk development agreement for the city of Menasha. As mentioned earlier, the developer and their team have done a wide range of development agreements throughout the region, as well as the state, and we're fairly reluctant to add that minimum assessment guarantee because it is not something that is
Hello?
typically done. Can you still hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
I lost you for a few seconds there.
Oh.
Low risk
Okay.
development.
So yeah, again, providing a minimum assessment guarantee is something that they have seen in development agreements in other municipalities, other jurisdictions, whereas the city was providing incentive up front, taking a higher risk with the development. But again, as stated, with the Pago style TIF, it is a very low risk for the city of Menasha, and that is why those numbers were tweaked to be very conservative.
Thank
Alderman
I'm gonna-
Nichols,
Yeah,
Alderman Stevanik has a question. I'm not sure if you're ready for that or not yet.
I am
Huh?
open the floor for questions at this time. Alderman Stevanik?
Thank you. I had my hand up for a long time and didn't know what was going on, but I got to remember we're on this conference call thing. So anyways, Alderman Nichols kind of put it out there, the same question I had, and I called Sam today about this because I had 3 sets of numbers and I was thinking, what am I doing wrong here? I'm not looking at this right for some reason. So this Exhibit C that we received on Friday that she noted, that's really useless right now, correct? That's based
Again,
on
Exhibit C is based upon the assumption, again, with the how to get to their maximum incentive. They still, again, anticipate on having, proposing a $17 million project. However, again, assessments are widely ranged. Because it is a Pago style TIF and it's based upon the increment created, it will shift up and down depending on where that value lands. And that is up to the developer, I guess, as far as the construction, the costs that they put into it, but then the end value is up to the city assessor and what that property gets valued at. So again, that is why it's.
I'm sorry, Sam.
Oh,
If phase
go
1
ahead.
comes in at $1 million, then they're going to be assessed at $10 million. So the projected revenues and the development incentives are going to be different than $16 million. So anyways,
it is noted, it's an estimated payment schedule based upon assumptions in the notes. So again, that will fluctuate. It's more of a visualizing or giving a visual to that incentive payment and how that works throughout the district.
So if we are agreeing to an agreement this evening, that doesn't have to include a payment schedule at this point.
The payment schedule that's provided, Alderman Stevanik, is strictly used as an example to demonstrate how it would work. It doesn't lock these amounts in stone.
Right. Okay. And I guess I'm going to have a couple questions for the developers. and hopefully they're still on. First of all, phase one I like a lot. I like the condos. They blend in nicely with Lake Park out there. I like the apartment concept with the underground parking. But as you know, just across the road in the village of Harrison, they're building more and more and more and more apartments like crazy out there. There's going to be competition with you. What makes your apartments unique over what's being built over in Harrison? Because basically they'll be both new. The insides, I'm assuming, will be pretty much the same. The only difference is that we require a little quality standard of like a brick instead of just vinyl siding. So that would be my first question. And what makes your apartment? I guess that's my question. What makes you feel that you're going to be competitive, maybe with a higher end clientele than what's being developed in Harrison?
Can everybody hear me still?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I guess the quick response to that is this will be a much different product than what you see across the street on the North Shore apartments done by tuning companies. Those are more of a, walk-up style apartment home. And rents there are, I think, between $750 and $900 per month for a 1 or 2 bedroom respectively. The development we're proposing, as it's been mentioned numerous times, will have underground parking. It will be an elevated building with all very high-end finishes. So we are going after a bit of a different price point than what you see across the street there. And this will be a difference in quality compared to the competition across the street as well.
Okay. This is just a sidebar. I've had conversations with Sam. I know we have the drawing there. It's on our screen right now. That may not be actually what it ends up looking like. Who knows? But one thing that I brought to Sam's attention are the balconies. When people build these apartments, they put these little tiny balconies in, just enough, more or less, to be fire escapes, basically. And I think if you want these apartments to be unique to what's over there in Harrison, the design should be a little different, where the patios outside provide an outdoor environment, living, and these little 4x6 patios really, to me, don't serve much purpose unless they're larger. So is there any way that this is not the final project here? I really think that if to make this unique and to sell it over all the hundreds and hundreds of apartments that are being built in Harrison, is there any way that you're looking at things still differently with that?
Yes, the image you're looking at is very conceptual. These are just ideas to help show kind of the quality, at least on the exterior, and some of what could be the finishes on the interior. So to answer your question, yes, we are still very much in the design phase and looking at a number of ways to separate or attract renters to this property. You can see on the plan above the images, we're going to have a large outdoor amenity area, likely with fire pits and grills and seating for residents to utilize. And as for the balcony specifically, again, yes, that's a very conceptual image, and we have not fully designed the size or the aesthetic to what those balconies will be. But there will be a number of amenities here that will attract or kind of separate our project from the competition.
And I'm glad that you mentioned those other things, because that's the first time I've heard those. So I thank you for that, and that's all I have, Alderman Nichols.
Thank you, Alderman Sednick. Are there other questions or conversation?
So the other two people that have their hands raised are Randy and James.
Thank you. Alderman Taylor?
Thank you, Chair. First of all, I'd like to thank the developers for coming to the city of Menasha here and putting together a project for us. And something I appreciate is your price point is very well taken. And also, as you can see, the city of Menasha, with our far east boundary out there, we have, in the last 10 years, really made an effort to have a quality of homes and buildings in that area. And the homes and condos and things that we have out there and buildings are mostly of brick, stone, and what I'm referring to is a permanent facade on these buildings. And I had a conversation with Director Schrader today about that. And we have an apartment complex in our city that's coming up on 45 years old. And when that complex was built, it was all brick. The balconies were all wrought iron. And those buildings look as fine as they did the day they were built, because of the masonry products that were used, because of the way the balconies were constructed, of the materials that were used. And I think you have an opportunity with Lake Park Road right there that people will, going by, it'll be a standout project that will attract people compared to the projects that are to the east of Lake Park. And certainly I would like, and I'm going to watch very carefully, the materials used. And I would hope that there are stone, brick, iron, and things that don't have to be updated in every 10, 15 years. And the least amount of vinyl that we can put on a building, I hope, with this project. And the rendering looks very, very good. And it's a standout looking building renderings. And I like the fact that the underground parking, elevated to the apartments, and also if this would have just been a flat surface parking area and a vinyl building, I wouldn't have been behind this at all. Because of our investment we have at the Lake Park area is really something special, and I certainly hope that this development is going to reflect that. And also, I would just like to know how you can have any covenants as far as, I know there is some flat surface on parking boats, snowmobiles, motorcycles and things outside year round. Is there any type of covenants you're going to have with this project?
Maybe can you describe what you mean by covenants a little bit more? Are you talking like community rules and regulations type?
Yeah, I mean, are the apartment owners going to own some flat surface park? I noticed there is some flat parking, surface parking, and
Yes.
what is the intent of that?
The intent will be a renter with a second or even third car that just needs another space or two, along with visitor parking, and just a flexible way to kind of accommodate different needs that we might have on site there. So
You would allow boats, snowmobiles, things of that nature, trailers to be parked out there?
we have not dove into specifics behind what is or what is not allowed. But yes, there will be some rules and regulations put in place on the renters as to what they can do, or at the very least for how long they would be able to park something of that nature. So.
Okay. And as far as the facade materials, brick, mortar, different non-painted surfaces. Is that something that you're looking towards?
Yes, we plan to use a number of different high-end or quality materials like you had said can stand the test of time. And we will be very conscious of keeping this project in line with the aesthetics of the neighborhood. So we do plan on creating a very nice looking property from Lake Park or Highway 10.
Okay, and certainly the neighbors out there and the development out there will appreciate that, and I'm certain you will be rewarded with quality tenants and with a quality unit like this. And like Alderman Sevenick said, there's a lot of other places to go across the street if people want lower end. So I appreciate you make the standard stay the same out there in the Lake Park area. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. Alderman Rapella.
Thank you very much, Alderman Nichols. Oh, boy. A number of questions here. First, a little concerned with the demand for the apartments. I was really excited when I found out about this a few months ago, as far as the potential of having some apartments over by Community First and along the 114 highway. And then recently Harrison, and I know those are the tune-in apartments, but then the ones between the tune-in apartments and Lake Park Pub, the bar, those are not going to be tune-in apartments. Those are going to be a different builder, I believe. And they're going to have almost 300. Then if you go down on Coop Road, which is just a little bit in towards Harrison by Woodland School, they're going to have another 300 apartments complex. What is going to distinguish yours between those other two apartment complexes? Are you privy to what they're building in those other complexes?
We have got,
Go ahead.
sorry, say that again.
Are you privy to what they're building in those other two complexes?
As for specifics regarding those projects, we do not have that information, but we'll continue to stay up to date on what is happening or planned for the area. But I can tell you we have done a large amount of research on Menasha, the Fox Valley and surrounding communities on what demand is for rentals, and specific to this project, a bit higher end rental. And we, feel very comfortable at this point spending dollars at this phase to put plans together and propose a project of this magnitude to the city of Menasha. So from our end, we understand there always will be new projects, but our research tells us that the demand is there, and we feel very comfortable coming up with ways to again separate ourselves from whatever the competition is or will be down the road.
Okay, moving on. Thank you. Let's see. We're, in some respects, we're paying you to build in Menasha. Is that correct?
We are providing a performance incentive, Alderman Rapella. Or we
Okay.
would, according to the agreement, we would be providing a performance incentive.
Okay. Would you have, Mr. Clister, would you have built here without us providing a performance incentive?
No, we would not, just because our performa would not make sense unless there is incentive dollars.
Okay, okay, moving on. What other projects have you built in the last 5 years?
Specific to multifamily in Appleton, we have the Gabriel Lofts that has just recently opened up. We have
Okay.
Avant, that's a 21 unit mixed use building downtown Appleton.
Yes,
And then
well
just-
aware of that.
So that was our group. We also have the Avant Apartments in Appleton. That's a 33 unit project of
Where's
market
that
rate
located?
rentals. downtown
that?
Appleton as well.
What building is that in? Is that right next to the Gabriel?
It is just north in a block. It's a block north and a block to the east of where Gabriel Lofts is. And it's new
Okay.
construction, so
It's past City Park, kind of.
yes. Yep.
So you have to tear down some buildings for that, or how did you find that land?
We did. We assembled 3 separate properties and decided to go ground up after combining those 3 parcels.
Is that built already?
It is a few months away from completion. We plan to open towards the middle to end of this summer.
Do you have any occupancy ratios or numbers yet?
It is still under construction, so we have not started leasing.
How about the Gabriel situation?
Alderman Repella, do you
Not
have
done yet.
questions specific to this project?
Yes, it's I will get to them. We will keep moving. All right. Is the Gabriel one almost already built?
It is built, and we have almost the entire building leased up.
Okay. All right. What are the lease prices over there for the Gabriel one?
It is a higher end project as well. So our rents are at, I guess, what would be considered towards the top of the market.
Okay. All right. Moving on. Alderman Taylor was talking about covenants and things like that. One of the worst things I hate in the parking lot is those type of things, snowmobiles. And you said you'd get around to doing some of those things. I would like a firmer commitment of those not being allowed to be sitting there for months, taking up space, as per se in the London Place apartments. So, what type of commitment are you going to give that?
That would be something for the Code of Ordinances.
Okay.
Thank you, Attorney Captain. About the project, Alderman Repella, we are
We're still on it. All right.
this development agreement,
Yes.
not managing properties. We are
I would
reviewing.
like to know the history of these builders rather than just giving them, since this is in my district, I would like something that's going to be an excellent example of housing. And I want to find out about these builders. And these are all questions that are providing those answers.
Hey, Randy? Randy,
Yes.
can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
This is Paul Klister. This is Dan, Tom, and Jack's dad.
Okay, Paul.
If you take a ride 5 miles from this site and you go by Encapsus, you go by Home Depot, you go by Walmart, everything around there, the Festival of Foods, everything within 5 miles there, I've pretty much developed.
Okay.
So the Spectrum building, the Agripur building. So I hope you can feel comfortable that we have developed some very high class, top-notch buildings. I mean, we are in this for the long haul. We're not trying to be one-hit wonders and build crappy buildings. These are all buildings that you've watched go up for the last 20 years, and they're going to be in our portfolio forever.
Okay. Thank you. I know where those buildings are, and I appreciate, Mr. Klister, your input. Thank you. I'm done, Becky. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Repella.
Alderman Taylor and Alderman Ted Grady have their hands up.
Alderman Ted Grady, please.
Thank you, Chair. I like this, especially I like the Pago. Thanks, Sam, for all your hard work and getting something developed out in that area. I guess maybe I missed it, but developers, what were we looking for as a monthly rate for renting?
Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Tom or Jack, do you want to provide a rental range for the 1 and 2 bedroom units that we're looking at right now?
This is Tom. I can speak to that quickly. Our one bedrooms, can everybody hear me?
Yep.
Yeah.
Our one bedrooms will range from 900 to 1,050 on average, around $950. And then our two bedrooms will be right around 1,300 to 1,450. So might be an average of $1,300 to $1,400, somewhere in that range.
Okay, thank you, Tom. Again, echo the thoughts of Alderman Sevenick too. I mean, this is good for the city of Menasha, and I like this. So I'll just leave it open for other questions. Thank you.
Alderman Taylor?
Thank you, Chair. Again, gentlemen, I appreciate you coming to the city of Menasha and bringing such a quality project to us that mirrors the Lake Park investments that we've done out there and the families and companies that have built out there. And just want to take this opportunity to say we have what you've done with the Gabriel property downtown Appleton is really, really, really interesting, and especially with the facade. And certainly we have two industrial buildings, the Bonta Company on the waterfront and the George Whiting Paper Company on the waterfront. Both have trail systems next to it, and I would ask you to take a look at that for us. Thank you.
Are there any other hands up?
So Sam has his hands up right now.
Okay, I have some questions too. So Director Schrader, would you like to go first?
Just very, very quickly, it's been noted a couple times regarding my hard work on the development agreement. This is certainly a joint effort between the city attorney and the mayor, myself, and the whole Clister team, as well as their attorney. So again, I certainly cannot take credit for what's in front of us today.
Thank you for sharing the well. I have a couple questions about the agreement itself. One of the things that struck me in my initial reading of the agreement was the reference to hard costs. When many of our development agreements have involved some sort of end value in mind. So Director Schrader, I would very much appreciate if you could talk to the difference.
Yeah, certainly. So again, as I try to explain on the front end with this, the developers can control what that end product is, what they're building, what their end rates are, and what that cost is to develop that project. So again, oftentimes, yes, we do look at adding end values or minimum value guarantees. Whereas, if they don't meet the value, they wouldn't get an incentive, or it'd be a reduced incentive, or something of that nature. Again, with this Pago style TIF, it is a very low risk TIF district. So again, we are looking at having with that minimum assessment guarantee in that development agreement of reducing kind of the that number to make sure it gives some comfort to the developer to continue on and to do this project. So I guess, does that answer your question?
Well, kind of. I'm going to refer to the agreement on page 3, section 2.8, minimum assessment guarantee. The developer agrees that the assessed value of each phase shall be equal to or greater than the amount set forth in section 2.6. So that would be equal to or greater than 10 million or equal to and greater than 3.5 million for phase 2, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So I can completely appreciate the developer's preference to measure hard costs and their need to measure those hard costs as well. And at the same time, I feel it's still in the city's best interest to have the highest and best use and most value placed on that property as a result of the project. And so my concern is that as this has gone on, we've seen that number decrease substantially from 16 to 20 million total to 13.5 million. In fact, out of the range. So that would be one of my concerns as I move through the agreement.
Hey, Sam. Sam, I'm sorry to interrupt, but this is Paul. Can I speak to that a little bit?
Sure.
So, and I want to be totally respectful to everybody on your staff, but I was sitting here writing down, I've done 18 development agreements over the last 15 years around within 60 miles of Appleton. I have never, ever had to guarantee increment in a Pago. So that's where it gets really difficult in these situations. So if the city of Menasha, and I am so respectful of this over the years because we've seen it around our communities, and Appleton's a great example when James Hall Development, why am I losing the name of it? Downtown Appleton, but anyways, they threw a bunch of money at the deal and he never finished the deal. So I was always a very strong proponent of Pagos, where the city is insulated from, if we don't perform, there's no incentive. So other TIFs that I've been involved in, and a good one will be for Spectrum, it could be for Valley Fair, it could be situations where other municipalities forwarded millions of dollars up front. Well, then we would guarantee a certain amount of increment because they've already spent the money. In this case, this is a clear Pago. So there's been a ton of discussion, there's been a ton of conversation, there's been a lot of negotiation between our attorney and attorney captain and Sam and our team. Philosophically, I don't believe in what they're asking for. So that's why the numbers have moved around. At the end of the day, we are saying it is going to be the lesser of 20% or $3.4 million. We have every intention of building probably more increment than it's coming out, but I don't see any reason or rational reasons why we should have to guarantee anything, but yet we are. And that I commend your staff for talking us into it, really, basically, because we know that it's a safe way to do it for both parties.
Thank you. I appreciate that comment because it just helped me understand something and answered one of the questions I've had over the last couple days. My second concern about the agreement is the phase 2 option. I understand that if phase 2 does not occur, then the city would be off the hook for those incentives as well. However, my concern is that the developer would still own that property at the end of the day, even though it was undeveloped. And so my question for Director Schrader is, are there any ways for this to be addressed so that we don't end up with, not saying that we will, but in order to protect ourselves against an undeveloped lot in the future?
I guess to answer that, I don't have a clear answer for you.
Sam, I can give you an answer. I think that's a really wise thing to do. A great example is where the Encapsis building is, 3-4 miles down the road. There was a private developer that owned that land, didn't do anything with it. So the city of Appleton had to put on it. And that's how we end up getting the land back to put a $20 million building on that property. So we have absolutely no objection to that. If you want to put a time frame of 5 years and we don't do something on it, absolutely the city should get that land back.
Director Schrader?
I was just going to add, so obviously the redevelopment authority owns the property, and part of upon approval of this, or actually the offer to purchase is in front of the RDA, the redevelopment authority, tomorrow night on their agenda to actually purchase these properties. Again, at that point, we could probably do something as Mr. Clister had mentioned regarding, right of reversion or a buyback on that. Specific to the council, I was just going to say, not specific to the buyback clause or anything of that nature, but I think you can see from the Clisters portfolio that they have intentions of doing investments, even if that investment changes over time. I think you have heard Alderman Rapella mention that there's additional units being built in the area. So again, they have to be careful of committing that phase 2 because they want to make sure it's not going to be detrimental to phase 1 or the entire project and put them in financial jeopardy like we've seen in other development agreements, whereas the city would have to step in or there'd be some sort of bankruptcy or something of that nature. Again, I'm not trying to say that's where we're at here, but again, I think it's a smart bet. They are investments they are looking at doing. They had just mentioned the Gabriel site, again, just completed construction and is almost fully leased out. So again, this is trying to be conservative on this end to make sure that at the end of the day, we get that end product and that end project that we're looking for.
Thank you, and thank you, Mr. Clister, for your answer before that. I think it's important to protect the city's interest in that aspect, and I will bring that forward at the redevelopment authority meeting tomorrow. And one last thing, Director Schrader, could you explain the guarantee calculation?
Oh, Christ.
So basically, the minimum assessment guarantee is in reference to 2.6, the value of the property, the 10 million, and the 3.5 million. Again, what the developer is agreeing to is to basically pay the difference. So let's say that property came in at 9 million, they would pay that difference of 1 million or the tax increment on that $1 million. But then at the same point, we would continue our payment schedule as at the 95% of that full payment into the city of Menasha.
So the developer would pay, if the project came in under 10 million, the developer would pay the difference, so to speak, but then we would in turn give incentivize 95% of that back to them in the form of incentive.
That is correct, yes.
Okay, I just wanted to be sure that everybody understood that. Are there any other questions about this development agreement?
I have my hand up.
Thank you, Alderman Sevenick.
Thank you, Chair. If you recognize me at this time, I'd like to, we're recommending this to the Common Council, right?
Correct.
So at this time, I'll move that we recommend to the Common Council approval of the development agreement between the City of Menasha and Lakeshore Ridge Apartments LLC for the development of Lot 3 and 4 of the Lake Park Villas. And then I have a question after that.
I'll second that.
I'm sorry, who has the second?
James Taylor.
James.
I have a motion by Alderman Sevenick and a second by Alderman Taylor to recommend this development agreement to the Common Council. Alderman Sevenick.
I also have a question, please.
Thank you. Alderman Sevenick has the floor.
I wanted to.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair. So tomorrow, is it my understanding the RDA has, and you'll be dealing with Lot 3 and 4?
Yes, there is an offer to purchase on the redevelopment authority agenda for lots 3 and 4.
For some reason, I thought that was done already. So, okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Alderman Rapella, did you have a question?
Yeah, well, actually more of a comment. This is for Mr. Clister. Great idea by having the phase 1 completed and then phase 2, depending on probably just checking to see on apartment sales. So that's a great idea to go kind of in the 2 phases. Kudos to you and whoever came up with that idea. So Keep up the good work. I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Seeing none, we'll take a roll call vote.
Alderman Taylor,
Aye.
Alderman Sevenick,
Aye.
Alderman Langdon,
Aye.
Alderman Schmidt,
Aye.
Alderman Tom Grady, Alderman Tom Grady,
Hey, my mute. Okay, aye, sorry, my mute.
Alderman Ted Grady,
Aye.
Alderman Rapella,
Aye.
Alderman Nichols.
Aye.
Motion carried on roll call 8-0.
Thank you, Clerk Galeazzi. Thank you to the entire Cluster team for being on the call this evening. And with that, I'll look for a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second,
Motion to adjourn by Alderman Taylor and a second by Alderman Tom Grady. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed, nay? We are adjourned.
Thank you all very much. Have a good night.